welcome to Hardtalk India. The Nagas have always claimed they are not a part of India, and in fact they believe they got their independence a day before the rest of the country, which means, of course, that the Naga insurgency is perhaps the longest-running secessionist struggle that the Indian government has to contend with. But in 1997, after decades of bitter fighting, the two sides declared a ceasefire, and over the last 8 years they've had 41 rounds of talks. So where do things stand today? That's the key question I shall put to the leader of the biggest Naga outfit, the General Secretary of the National Socialist Council of Nagaland, Muiva. Mr. Muiva, on the 21st of March, your colleague Isaac Swu, the chairman of the NSCN, said in a statement to mark Naga Independence Day, there is a time when fighting for a good cause is a must, and there is also a time when negotiation is unavoidable. He added, now we have come to the stage of political negotiation. The Naga people should be wise to seize this finest opportunity for finding an amicable solution. Does this mean that the time is ripe for settlement of the Naga issue with India?
You're right. Because, in the past, the Indian leadership did never care to understand the Nagas. So fighting started because they sent troops and occupied Nagaland. But now they say that, no, it is not military solution. That would be possible, but through political talks. So if it is so, why not?
Now you refer to a change in the attitude of the Indian leadership. How much of that was brought about by the decision of the Vajpayee government to recognize the unique identity and history of the Naga people?
It has given a good wave of understanding, and it serves a lot of purpose there in Nagaland. Why? Because this is the first time in the history that the leaders or the government of India has recognized the uniqueness of Naga history. This had been done long before, since, but that was not done. But now, the uniqueness of Naga history is clear. The situation is also clear. So it is a good chance for every one of us to seek solution.
Now, as I said, you've had 8 rounds of talks since December when you came to India. You've had 41 rounds since 1997 when the ceasefire was declared. Are the two sides coming closer together?
Yes, that can be assumed, because from our side also, we have started taking steps, initiatives to come closer, because government of India has also recognized the unique history of the Nagas. So that should be the point, to come closer towards each other.
So after they recognize the unique history, you two are responding in a similar way?
Yeah.
And the talks are actually making progress?
It is making progress in the sense that when Mr. Vajpayee's government recognized the uniqueness of Naga history, we also accepted his invitation to come to India. Actually, so far as the venue of the talk is concerned, it had to be somewhere outside India. But since they have recognized positively the uniqueness of Naga history, we should also honor them and reciprocate. So we did that. So we accepted his invitation to come to India.
Let me try and understand your present position. I believe that over the last 8 years from 1997, you no longer stress your traditional demand for sovereignty. Instead, you are now asking for, to use your words, a special federal relationship with India. Is that right?
But here the question is, sovereignty of the Naga people belongs to the Naga people, and to the Naga people alone. That cannot be otherwise. So Nagas have the right to decide their future, to determine their fate also. So long as that is there, of course, adjustment can be made.
But you are, in your negotiations with the Indian government, at the moment talking about a special federal relationship with India.
The problem is this. So long as the national identity of Nagas are recognized and honored, that is possible.
So as long as the uniqueness of Naga identity is recognized and honored, a special federal relationship is possible.
When we say federal special federal relationship, it has to depend on the terms of the agreement
Quite right.
that can be arrived at.
On the terms of the agreement that can be arrived at.
Yeah.
Let's explore, in a sense, what sort of agreement can be arrived at. When you talk about a special federal relationship with India, are you in fact talking of a special federal position within the Indian Constitution?
No, it should be Federation of India and Nagaland.
A federation of India and Nagaland,
Yeah.
but not a special federal position within the Indian Constitution.
No, within the Indian Constitution, that is not possible.
But a special federal relationship between the two is possible.
Yes.
Now, in this special federal relationship, what sort of powers would lie with the government in Delhi?
No, it is in the process of working out. So it may be a little bit too early on my part to make elaboration on that.
It's been said that the areas or subjects that you're talking about where Delhi could have control would be defense, external affairs, communication, currency. Am I wrong?
Yeah, in some aspect, you're right.
In some aspects, I'm
Yes.
right. Without
right.
wanting to confirm it, I am in some aspects right.
But yes, you are right. But we haven't yet settled those questions.
Quite right. They aren't settled,
Mm.
but that's a possibility.
No. You know, when we talk about defense, we have to say that Nagaland must be defended jointly in the events of external threat. That is possible. Why? Because, you know, if Nagaland would be in danger, naturally the security of India would also be threatened. And we appreciate that. That is why.
Would a joint defense agreement apply the other way around? If India were under threat, would Nagaland come to India's defense as well?
That is not the case.
That is not the case.
Supposing there's a war or confrontation between India and other countries, Naga should not be under the obligation to join forces with India.
Not an obligation, but under the terms of an agreement that you arrive at, the option could be open.
Here the point is joint defense only Nagaland.
Joint defense only of Nagaland.
Nagaland.
But you are saying that the other areas I mentioned, external affairs, currency, communication, those are areas where you're thinking of the possibility that Delhi could be in control.
We have already made our position very clear about this also. So far as external affairs are concerned, primarily government of India should have them.
Primarily government of India.
Yes. But whenever the interests of the Nagas are affected, Naga should also represent.
Okay. All the other powers would vest with the government in Kohima, and you would have your own constitution for deciding how they're exercised. Is that right?
You're right.
And here, the nature of the powers exceeds those between India and the other states to the extent that you want state control over subjects like the environment, forests, wildlife, education, culture, where in the Indian case, these are concurrent subjects, you would like state control over them.
Sure.
So in a sense, you're talking of a system that is closer to the Indian constitutional position of 1950 before the document began being amended and changed.
We can come as close as possible, but it is not possible for the Nagas to come within the Indian Union or within the framework of the Indian Constitution. Why? Because it amounts to dismissing the whole history of the Nagas, and Nagas cannot do that.
Let's take up this question of coming within the Indian Constitution in a moment's time. You also want your own flag, I believe, your own stamps,
Sure.
and the right to open tourist and trade offices abroad.
Sure.
I'm right on all of that.
Yes, yes, you're right.
It seems to me that in a sense, you're talking of a relationship between Nagaland and India that is analogous to the relationship between Jammu and Kashmir state in India when that state acceded for the first time in October 1947.
Here the issue is this. The nature of the issue is different. Of course, about Kashmir, they would know better. I think they will talk better. But so far as Nagaland's case is concerned, the history is very clear. Nagaland was never a part of India, either by conquest of India or by consent of the Nagas. This is very clear. And this is the unique history. So according to the uniqueness, no solution will have to be worked out.
So the position we have, or the position we could reach, is one where you could have a division of powers between Delhi and Kohima, which is broadly similar to the accession of Kashmir in 47. But the big difference is that whereas Kashmir accepted Indian sovereignty, the Nagas wish to retain their sovereignty.
Yes, whenever it is possible, we have to retain it.
Can I put this to you? If within the Indian constitution you can get all the powers and control that you want, then why is a special position within the constitution so difficult?
You know, when we talk and when we say that within the frame of the Indian constitution, it is always dangerous because any provision in the constitution could be easily amended whenever expediency arises. So this is the danger. So we cannot.
Could you accept some form of guarantee that as far as Nagaland and its involvement with India was concerned, the constitution would never be amended? Could you accept that?
Here, you know, we're coming to the point. The agreement, according to the terms of the agreement, relationship will have to be worked out. The agreement will have, the agreement which is going to be arrived at should be incorporated in the Indian constitution. Equally, it should also be incorporated in the Naga constitution.
But if the agreement were incorporated in the Indian constitution in such a way that it can never be amended, and you have that guarantee, then could you accept a special position within the Indian constitution?
No.
Not even then?
That cannot be guaranteed. The certainty cannot be, or the surety cannot be guaranteed.
And because it can't be guaranteed, you can't accept a position within the constitution.
That is the point. We cannot accept it.
And yet the anomaly is that at the moment, Mr. Muiva, you travel on an Indian passport.
You are right. But you know, in filling up the forms, I specifically mentioned that loyalty or allegiance to the Indian constitution is not applicable, it is not acceptable.
In other words, you made a point of excluding that.
Yeah.
All right. Now, the second big issue is your demand for the integration of Naga territories outside the present borders of Nagaland with Nagaland. I believe that here today what you are asking for is recognition of the legitimacy of the people's aspirations for Naga integration and a reasonable time frame for its implementation. Is that right?
That's right, if they can be accepted.
So what you are saying is, agree to the principle today, implement it later on, but within a reasonable time frame.
If it is possible, why not we start? The process of integration. But from the Indian side, you know, they are not fully prepared yet.
And you are prepared to give them a little time, provided they recognize the principle immediately.
Sure. Sure.
Okay, so here there is a real possibility that you are making a concession in terms of implementation, although on principle you want an immediate decision.
Sure.
Let's look at the demand a little bit more closely. For instance, in Assam, you're claiming a strip of territory from Dibrugarh roughly in the north to Silchar roughly in the south, where most of the population is not Naga. For instance, in North Kachar, barely 5% are Naga. In Kabi Anglong, it may not even be more than 0.5%. So what's the ground for this claim?
No, you know, we don't claim any land belonging to others. But the land Nagas have been living in from time immemorial. Of course, they must have that. Why? Because those part of lands were divided by the British and then by the government, given them. No, that is not justified.
So it's a historical claim rather than a claim based on present residence or ownership.
No. You are right. Here the question is, Nagaland was just a compact area. We don't have greater Nagaland. We don't have smaller Nagaland either. No? We have just the land that belongs to us. And the land that belongs to us must be ours.
The problem with a historical claim, where for 100 years or more the status quo has been quite different, is this. Suppose India were to claim Kabul on the grounds that Maharaja Ranjit Singh in the 19th century ran Afghanistan and controlled the country. Afghanistan wouldn't agree. Such historical claims lose their validity with time, don't they?
But you know, in the case of Kabul or in the case of Afghanistan, that may be true, may not be true. I cannot say for sure. But so far as the Naga issue is concerned, you know, Nagaland was divided and is divided still without the consent of the Nagas, totally against the wishes of the Nagas. This is one of the main reasons why Nagas have been so bitter and fighting.
I'm told that in fact your claim in parts of Manipur is a lot stronger. In Ukhrul, for instance, the population is perhaps well over 80% Naga. But the problem there is that any attempt made to separate areas like Ukhrul from Manipur would lead to violence and bloodshed, as happened in 2001.
Of course, if our lands there in Manipur, we don't claim any land belonging to the Meiteis. This must be cleared. It is very serious.
But what about the violence and the bloodshed that would inevitably follow?
Well, that is by the Meiteis, but backed by the Indian government. So we're not responsible for that. You know, for the Nagas, naturally we have to claim the land belonging to us. You go and see whether we are claiming lands belonging to others or the lands, I mean, in which we have been living.
In fact, Ukhrul is an emotional and personal issue for you. You come from Ukhrul.
Yeah.
Would I be right in saying that the claim on Ukhrul is non-negotiable?
It's not a claim. It's not a claim. It is a fact that Naga areas here in Manipur, so-called Manipur, is very clear. And it was not the decision of the Naga people to live there, but we were just forced by the British and by the Indian government that we cannot accept. Nagas must have the right to own the land. Why should government of India give land of the Nagas to others? This is the greater question.
Also, Ukhrul has a personal meaning for you. Your claim to lead the Nagas could be undermined if Ukhrul is not part of the Naga land you lead.
Of course, if it is not, if Naga areas in Manipur would be just deprived for unification, there would be absolutely no solution.
I'm told that Tirap and Changlang in Arunachal Pradesh may be easier for you to merge with, and that it's even possible that Arunachali politicians would agree to cede this territory. Am I right?
I believe so, because if this question is asked to the Naga people, population, whether they are in Arunachal or in Assam or in Manipur, Nagas will naturally say yes. But the problem is that the government of India wants to please the Meiteis, the Assamese, and the Arunachalis. This is the problem.
You're saying the government is trying to please too many people and it can't succeed.
You're right. That's the point.
But the problem with ceding territory is that it's not just an emotional issue, it's often an intractable issue. Would you be happy for the government of India to set up a states reorganization commission or a states boundary commission to resolve this difficult problem?
That is up to the Indians, if they can do that. But here the main...
You would have no objection?
No, the problem is this here. You know, Nagas are skeptical. Why? Because whenever any issue arose in the past, let me say, government of India took side with others, not with the Nagas, always against the Nagas.
But this time round, if they were to set up a reorganization or a re-boundaries drawing commission, and you believed that they were doing it sincerely, and that's an important qualification,
if all the Naga,
then would you accept?
If all the Naga areas would be included, of course, we will, but it has to be a political solution.
It has to be a political solution.
Yeah.
So, on this issue, just to sum up, on this issue of Naga areas outside the present borders of Nagaland, you want a decision in principle recognizing your claim.
Sure.
And then you're prepared to give them a reasonable time frame to fulfill it.
If they're prepared.
If they're prepared.
Yes.
And one route that could be acceptable is a states reorganization or a states boundary commission, provided it's done sincerely.
Well, that is from the Indian side. That is Indian system. We cannot keep ourselves subject to the Indian system. But if they can work out, which can be acceptable to us, of course, we will accept that. But it has to be a political solution.
Now, you often talk about, and the phrase is Nagaland for Christ. What am I to make of this? Do you want a theocratic state?
No, that is not the case. We have been misunderstood about this. No, this is not the law. This is not the law. This is not the compulsion. This is the aspiration of the Naga people, because more than 95% of the populations are Christians. Naturally, they have to profess that way.
So would your proposed Naga state be secular?
Sure, it has to be secular. If it is not secular, then we will be betraying ourselves. Why?
And non-Naga and non-Christian minorities would be secure?
Sure, they would be secured.
You've been talking to the Indian government for 4 months. You've had 8 rounds since you came to India in December. Do you have a deadline in mind, or can the talks continue indefinitely?
I think it is too early to talk about it. Anyway, that is also pertinent in a way. Here, if progress cannot be made, naturally it will be a waste of time.
But so, at the moment, you have said progress is being made.
Slowly, but not on big issues.
Not on big issues. Are you satisfied with the progress, or are you beginning to feel frustrated?
Well, what to do if we cannot foresee any progress, positive steps to be taken from the Indian side? There's no point to be confident also.
But at this moment, you haven't reached that point. At this moment, you are prepared to give the Indians more time. Is that right?
Yes. But you should not be too presumptuous.
Things could go wrong.
Things can go wrong anytime.
So that the audience can understand, I want to ask you a blunt question. Are you an optimist, or are you becoming pessimistic?
So, I mean to say that if the uniqueness of Naga history is recognized,
and it has been,
and if the solution is to be sought on the basis of this, naturally one has to be hopeful.
And that means that Muiva is hopeful.
It's hopeful so long as it is, that acceptance of the uniqueness of the Naga history is respected by the present government.
So on that basis, given time and given sincerity, we could have a political solution.
Sure.
Mr. Muiva, pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Same to you.